We are now going to review the present tense of the regular Italian verbs. Before we start our review, we have to understand what is the function of a verb within a sentence. Let's look at the example. Marco mangia una mela. The verb mangia indicates the action. The person who is doing the action is Marco. Marco is thus the subject of this sentence. Mangia is the present tense of the verb mangiare, that means to eat. As you probably remember, Italian verbs can be divided in three groups when looking at their infinitive form. We thus have verbs ending in are, like mangiare, amare, giocare, verbs ending in ere, like vedere, credere, and verbs ending in ire, like partire and pulire. If we look back at the example, Marco mangia una mela, we do not find mangiare, but instead we have mangia. Why? Because we have to conjugate the verb. What does conjugate mean? It means that depending on the subject, the ending of the verbs changes. We have the same thing happening in English when dealing with the subject in the third person singular. We say she speaks Italian, whereas for all the other person we say we speak or I speak. So you see that this change in the ending of the verbs forms happen in English only for the third person singular, whereas in Italian it happens for all the person and for each tense. How do we know what is the correct ending then? It's quite easy. When we are speaking at the present, referring to events happening now, we just have to look at the infinitive of the verb, for instance, amare, and we take off the ending are of the infinitive. We then proceed by adding the endings for the present tense. The endings are different for each of the three groups of regular verbs. So, for instance, for the first group of verbs ending in are, in the infinitive, we will have io amo, tu ami, lui o lei ama. So we see that we have still the roots of the infinitive, but instead of having are here, we change the endings depending on the person who is doing the action. Io amo, tu ami, lui o lei ama. And we go on with the following person in the plural form. Thus we have noi amiamo, voi amate, loro amano. The endings o, I, a, iamo, ate, ano are the endings of the present tense for each of the verb belonging to the are group. So we will have io amo, but at the same time io gioco. I will have noi amiamo, but at the same time noi giochiamo. The endings for the present tense for the second and third groups of verbs are a bit different. You can see it here. They differ from the are group in the third person singular and in the second and third person plural. So we will have lei parla, italiano, third person of the verb parlare, lei vede, me, third person singular of the verb vedere, lei parte, domani, third person singular of the verb partire. I just want to go back for a moment to the third group ending in ire, those ire verbs that we just saw. Partire is conjugated in this way. Io parto, tu parti, lei o lui parte, noi partiamo, voi partite e loro partono. Within this third group of verbs ending in ire, there are some special verbs called the ESC verbs. They belong to the same group, but they behave a little differently from the others. These verbs add an additional suffix between the roots of the verb and the ending of the present tense for the first, second, third person singular and the third person plural. Let's consider the verb pulire. The verb in the present tense is conjugated in the following way. Io pulisco, tu pulisci, lui pulisce, but then noi puliamo, voi pulite, and again the suffix loro puliscono. So remember, this special group, the ESC verbs, always belong to the third group of ire verbs, but they behave a little differently. The most common are pulire, to clean, capire, to understand, finire, to finish, and spedire, to send. So this is all for the regular verbs and their present tense.